20 doctors failed to save a billionaire. Then the maid surprisingly stepped in and instantly healed him. This unbelievable story shocked the world, left doctors speechless, and proved that sometimes miracles come from the most unexpected hearts. Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear will keep you on the edge of your seat. He collapsed, right in the middle of a party filled with the richest and most powerful people in the city. That's how the shocking news about Richard Hale, a billionaire business tycoon, spread across the media like wildfire. Known far and wide for his empire in technology, luxury hotels, and countless investments, Richard was a man who seemed untouchable. To the outside world, he was a symbol of power, wealth, and success. People admired him, competitors envied him, and employees respected him. He had built an image of being larger than life, a man whose influence stretched across continents. On his 60th birthday, Richard wanted to celebrate not just his age, but his achievements. He had spared no expense on the party. His golden mansion was decorated with chandeliers that sparkled like diamonds. The tables were covered in exotic flowers flown in from different countries, and the menu was prepared by world-class chefs. Celebrities, politicians, and foreign investors, all were present, enjoying the lavish music and endless flow of champagne. Laughter filled the air, and everyone believed it would be an unforgettable night of joy and extravagance. But in one shocking moment, everything changed. While raising a toast with a crystal glass in hand, Richard's smile suddenly disappeared. His face turned pale, his eyes lost focus, and he clutched his chest with a look of pain and fear. Before anyone could react, he collapsed on the polished marble floor with a heavy thud. The room went silent for a split second, then chaos erupted. Guests screamed, glasses shattered on the ground, and the music stopped abruptly. Panic broke out instantly. Some guests rushed forward to help, while others froze in horror. Richard's personal medical team, who were always on standby, came running in. They quickly checked his pulse, his breathing, and his heart. Within minutes, the best emergency doctors in the city, who had been invited as guests, joined the scene, trying to stabilize him. But despite their efforts, Richard's condition continued to worsen. His heartbeat grew dangerously weak, his breathing became uneven and shallow, and sweat covered his forehead. His once powerful and commanding presence had now been reduced to a fragile man lying helpless on the floor. Whispers spread among the terrified guests, echoing through the grand hall like a haunting chorus. How can a man this rich, with every doctor at his service, be slipping away right before our eyes? It was a question no one could answer, and at that moment, fear overshadowed all the wealth, luxury, and power in the room. Over the next 48 hours, Richard was treated by 20 of the world's top doctors, cardiologists, neurologists, and surgeons who had been flown in on private jets from different countries. His family spared no expense, believing that money could solve anything. State-of-the-art machines were brought in, rare medicines were rushed to the mansion, and every kind of advanced treatment known to modern science was attempted. But despite all the expertise and all the technology surrounding him, nothing worked. Richard's body remained weak, fragile, and unresponsive, as if life itself was slowly slipping away. One of the senior doctors finally stepped back, removed his gloves, and shook his head with a look of defeat. His voice was heavy when he said softly, "His body is rejecting everything. We've done all we can." The room fell into silence. Nurses looked down at the floor, the family gasped in disbelief, and the atmosphere grew unbearably heavy. Richard's children and relatives gathered near his bed, tears rolling down their faces. His wife held his cold hand and whispered prayers, refusing to let go. His children argued with the doctors, begging them to try harder, to do something, anything that could bring him back. But the doctors knew the truth. Money, machines, and medicine had reached their limit. The billionaire, who once commanded the world with power and wealth, was now helpless against the one enemy he could not buy his way out of death. Outside the mansion, the world waited anxiously. Reporters had camped near the gates, cameras flashing day and night. Headlines screamed across newspapers and television screens. Billionaire Richard Hale critical. Doctors say no hope. The mansion that once symbolized wealth and power now looked like a fortress of sorrow. People everywhere were glued to the news, waiting for the inevitable announcement. But inside those walls, someone very unexpected was watching everything quietly. The mansion's maid, Maria. Maria was a simple woman in her late 40s, with gentle eyes and a calm presence. She had worked in the Hale household for over 10 years, serving tea, cleaning rooms, polishing furniture, and moving silently across the marble floors. To most of the wealthy guests, and even to some of the family, she was invisible, just another servant in the background. Yet Maria was more observant than anyone realized. She had watched the doctors come and go, heard them whisper that nothing more could be done, and seen the family breaking down in despair. She noticed the hopelessness in their eyes, the exhaustion on their faces, and the heavy silence that now hung over the once lively mansion. And deep inside her heart, Maria felt a stirring she could no longer ignore. She wasn't rich, she wasn't a doctor, and she wasn't powerful. But she carried something within her, knowledge, experience, and faith that she believed might make a difference. As she stood by the doorway, watching Richard's condition worsen, a voice inside her whispered firmly, "You have to try something. If you stay silent, he will be gone forever." Maria wasn't just an ordinary maid. Back in her small village, far away from the noise of the city, she had been known for something far greater than cleaning houses or serving tea. She was known as a healer. Generations of wisdom flowed through her veins. Her grandmother, a woman deeply respected in their community, had passed down to her the secrets of ancient remedies. These are not found in textbooks or hospitals, but in nature, tradition, and prayer. From childhood, Maria had learned how certain plants could reduce fever, how pressure points on the body could relieve pain, and how the human spirit, when calmed by faith, could awaken the body's will to survive. Over the years, life had taken Maria away from her village and into the Hale mansion. She had left her healing work behind, burying that part of herself in silence. In the city, people believed in science, not in old remedies. To reveal her knowledge would only invite ridicule. Who would trust a maid's touch when even the most expensive doctors, armed with machines and medicines, had failed? And so, she remained quiet, working dutifully, never mentioning her hidden gift. But now, as she watched Richard's life slipping further away each day, Maria felt her heart ache. She couldn't ignore the calling inside her any longer. It was as if her grandmother's voice whispered in her ear, "Child, healing hands are not meant to stay idle when someone is suffering. You must try." That night, when the mansion grew silent and the last of the doctors had left, Maria gathered her courage. Fear trembled in her chest. What if she was caught? What if she failed? Yet, stronger than her fear was her determination. Slowly, she entered Richard's room. The billionaire lay helpless, unconscious, wires and tubes covering his body, his face pale and lifeless. Machines beeped softly, reminding her of the fragile line between life and death. Taking a deep breath, Maria placed her hand gently on his wrist. She closed her eyes, whispered the prayers of her childhood, and began pressing specific points on his body, places her grandmother had taught her that could restore balance to the heart and mind. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a tiny vial of herbal oil she always kept with her, a simple mixture of plants her grandmother had sworn by. Warming it between her palms, she rubbed it carefully on his chest and forehead. At first, nothing seemed to happen. But then, something incredible began to unfold. Richard's breathing, once shallow and uneven, slowly deepened. The weak beeping of the monitor grew stronger, steadier, as if his body was responding to her touch. Maria's hands trembled, but she didn't stop. Tears filled her eyes as she continued, whispering prayers and working with devotion, unaware that she was witnessing the beginning of a miracle. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight slipped through the velvet curtains of Richard's grand bedroom, silence filled the air. The nurses moved quietly, checking the machines that had barely kept him alive for days. Suddenly, one nurse gasped and then screamed, her voice trembling with disbelief. His heartbeat is stronger. His oxygen levels are rising. The sound of her cry echoed through the hallways, pulling doctors and family members into the room. They rushed to Richard's bedside, their eyes darting between the monitors and his frail body. Numbers on the screen, which had remained dangerously low, were now climbing at a pace no one could explain. "Check again," one doctor ordered, hardly trusting his own eyes. Another ran quick tests, his hands shaking as results came back clear. Richard's body was responding. His pulse, his oxygen, his breathing, everything was stabilizing as though life itself had returned to him overnight. And then the impossible happened. After days of silence and near-death stillness, Richard's eyelids fluttered. His lips parted, and in a weak but unmistakably clear voice, he whispered, "Where am I?" The room froze in utter shock. His wife clutched his hand and burst into tears. His children cried out in joy, and the doctors stood frozen in disbelief. One of them whispered the words everyone was thinking. "This is medically impossible." For hours, they monitored him, expecting the miracle to fade. But instead, Richard grew stronger with every passing minute. By midday, he was sitting upright in bed, speaking softly with his family, his pale face slowly regaining color. Meanwhile, outside the mansion, the media exploded with headlines. Reporters shouted into cameras, "Billionaire Richard Hale miraculously recovers after doctors gave up hope." The world, which had already begun mourning him, was now stunned by his mysterious recovery. But Richard knew deep inside that this was no ordinary medical turnaround. As he rested, faint memories drifted in his mind, warm hands pressing on his skin, the soothing scent of herbs, and a calming voice whispering prayers. These fragments did not match the sterile touch of doctors or the beeping of machines. No, this was something different, something human, something spiritual. Turning to his family, Richard asked quietly but firmly, "Who was with me last night?" The room fell silent. Everyone looked at each other in confusion, until finally, from the back of the room, Maria stepped forward. Her eyes were lowered, her hands trembling as she bowed her head. With a voice barely above a whisper, she admitted what she had done. Instead of anger or disbelief, Richard did something no one expected. He smiled. It was the first genuine smile that had crossed his face in weeks. His eyes, once clouded with weakness and despair, now shone with gratitude and warmth. He reached out his trembling hand toward Maria and said in a steady, heartfelt voice, "Maria, you saved me when 20 of the world's greatest doctors could not. You didn't just heal my body. You gave me back my life, my strength, and my hope." The room fell silent. His family looked at Maria with wide eyes, finally seeing her in a light they had never noticed before. The doctors exchanged uneasy glances, struggling to accept what had happened. Here was a simple maid, a woman they had overlooked countless times, who had done what their science and knowledge could not. From that day forward, Maria was no longer seen as just a maid. Richard made a stunning announcement that shocked everyone present. He declared that he would clear all of Maria's debts, debts she had quietly carried for years without complaint. He promised her a beautiful home for her family, a place where they could live in comfort and dignity, free from the struggles that had weighed on them for so long. But perhaps his greatest gesture was the most meaningful of all. Richard pledged to build and fund a healing center in Maria's village, a place where her gift could reach thousands of people who had no access to expensive doctors or modern hospitals. This center would not just be a building. It would be a symbol of hope, a place where the forgotten and the poor could come and find relief, guided by the wisdom and compassion Maria had carried in her heart all along. When the media heard of Richard's transformation and his plans, the story spread across the globe. News outlets called it the miracle of the Maid. Headlines spoke of the billionaire who was saved not by wealth or medicine, but by the humble hands of a servant. People everywhere were moved, inspired to believe that greatness and miracles could come from the most unexpected places. At a press conference, Richard himself addressed the world with words that would be remembered for years. Money can buy the best doctors, the most advanced machines, and every luxury imaginable. But sometimes healing comes not from wealth, but from the heart. And sometimes the most powerful hands are the ones we overlook. As for Maria, she remained the same gentle, humble woman she had always been. She did not seek fame or fortune from her actions. Instead, she devoted herself to her new purpose, using her gift to help others, to heal, and to serve. She had stepped forward at a time when no one believed in her. And through her courage, she had not only saved a man, but had touched the hearts of millions. Maria's story became a living reminder that true strength doesn't always wear a suit or carry wealth. It often hides in the quiet, in the humble, in those who serve silently until the moment they are called to rise. And in rising, Maria didn't just change one man's fate. She changed the world's idea of where miracles can be found. If you found this story inspiring, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another powerful video. Thanks for watching.